There's a lot of optimism here. Now, I think this division as a whole, it's not very good. I think it's clearly the weakest division in the AFC. Good morning. Welcome back to another episode of HardFoul Radio. This is the show that values time. I value mine. You should value yours. So let's get started. We are continuing with Division Week here. Wonderful time. Can't wait for football season. The crackhead in me is just feeling some kind of way. So it is Wednesday. Nobody likes Wednesday. So I felt what better time than to pick what I think will be the two worst divisions in football. Ironically, both are the South, the AfC and NFC South. Now, the way I wanted to start this week off was essentially giving a theme to each division, right? Because I think if you look around and you see the four teams that make up each division, there's a theme going into this year that you can kind of encapsulate the entire division around. And that's true with these two as well. They may not be really strong themes because, like I said, these two divisions, these teams, not so great. So let's start with the AFC South. The AFC South, we're starting on a positive note, is the division of optimism. Look at the amount of young quarterbacks in this division alone. CJ Stroud, who's going to be starting the number 2 overall pick for the Texans. Anthony Richardson, another top 5 pick. 2 rookie QBs are going to be starting week 1 inside one division. And the Titans, even though Ryan Tannehill is the starter, have Malik Willis, and they just drafted the new kid. So, there is multiple young quarterbacks in one division. And the team that most people believe will win the division is the next young superstar in Trevor Lawrence. There's a lot of optimism here. Now, I think this division as a whole, it's not very good. I think it's clearly the weakest division in the AFC. But even, I've said this multiple times, if you're not going to be good, at least be exciting. There's nothing that a fan base hates more than when their team not only sucks, but they're boring and they got nothing to look forward to. I've been a Bronco fan the last 7 years. It's been a lot of boring. It's not even a matter of the record. It's more so the fact of the games on Sunday, they're boring. There's not a lot to look forward to because they're just competitive enough to not get a crazy high draft pick, but they're boring to watch on offense. It ruins your Sunday, and it spills in other parts in your life, and it just makes you miserable as a human being because we're sports fans and we're all just crazy and irrational. So when your football team sucks on a Sunday and they're boring on top of it, it ruins your whole day. So you can be bad, but don't be boring. Be the bad team that has a great young offense that can score 25, 30 points, and the defense isn't just quite there. Or maybe you don't have the right head coach. And there's going to be a lot of that here in the AFC South. The Jaguars are going to be exciting. Trevor Lawrence, Calvin Ridley. People are already talking about that, even though they've never played a snap together, as a potential top 5 connection just due to the high upsides and ceilings of both players. That's fun. That's exciting. That's something to look up. That's something to look forward to. That's optimism. We love optimism. As human beings, we love optimism. And as sports fans, we especially love optimism. Let me be excited for something. The Titans, yes, you might not have the quote-unquote same kind of feeling immediately because Tannehill is going to be your week 1 starter, but the potential between your last 2 drafts, putting draft capital and relevant draft capital into 2 quarterbacks, knowing that, okay, if we get off to a slow start, the reins are going to be handed over. It's a lot to look forward to. Plus, you get Derrick Henry back, what should be a fully healthy season. And we all love watching Derrick Henry play. The Texans, you just got your potential future of your franchise. CJ Stroud, plus you just got the Texans went and used multiple draft picks that they got to capitalize off the Deshaun Watson trade, and they got multiple top 5 picks. So this is potential not only to have your quarterback of the future, you've got potentially 3 or 4 guys this year as rookies who not potentially, but for sure are going to play big-time minutes, big-time roles. And the potential and optimism comes for how good and how great can they potentially be and at how fast a rate and how fast a pace can they get there. So, once again, there's not going to be a lot of good that comes out of this division in terms of you're not looking for a team to get off to 12, 13 wins, compete for the 1 seed. I know there's a lot of talk right now that the Jaguars are the sneaky 1 seed favorite because they're going to beat up on the bad division and they're potentially going to get to those 12, 13 wins. I don't see that happening, but the optimism is crazy. And then the Colts with Anthony Richardson, the biggest upside prospect of any first-round quarterback in the last several years. Like, if you just look at his numbers across the board, his physical numbers, how fast he can run, arm strength, the way he did the drills, he killed the combine. Like, his upside is more than any other quarterback that was drafted this year and realistically last year. Now, we know he's a very raw project, so he's probably going to come out the gate the slowest. But I'm a big believer, especially in the AFC, you're going to need special when it's time for you to compete. Because Mahomes is special. Burrow is special. Allen is special. So when it comes to these are the guys that are in your way, these are the guys you got to knock off if you want to have true aspirations of a championship or being a competitive playoff team year in, year out, you're going to need special. And Anthony Richardson, out of all the quarterbacks taken this year and even last year, and you could even argue going into next year with the exception of Caleb Williams, his upside is that great. So if you're the Colts, you have the most, and I know it's been a crappy offseason with the Jonathan Taylor stuff, but even with the Jonathan Taylor stuff aside, you have the potential to be, you have the most exciting young quarterback in the NFL if he pans out. So the AFC South's theme is optimism. Not going to be great. Worst division in the AFC. But the optimism. Lawrence, the Titans' future, C.J. Stroud, Anthony Richardson. This is the worst division in the AFC and potentially the NFL this year. All these guys pan out, that will not be the case in 2 years. Matter of fact, all these guys pan out, this is potentially the best division in the AFC in 2 years. Transitioning from the AFC South to the NFC South, and this is the bummer part of the show. This is where, the optimism starts to go out the window, It's the first of the month, the rent's due again. This is the time nobody wants to be a part of. The NFC South is the worst division in football. And there's not a lot of optimism. There's not a lot of excitement. This is bad, getting worse, and it's going nowhere fast. Like, what is the most promising thing in the NFC South? Like, think about that for a second. Just really ask yourself, what's the most promising thing? Derek Carr on his veteran quarterback part of his career, entering the journeyman part of his career. Derek Carr reuniting with Dennis Allen, like that's not exciting. That's watching Fast 10. Like we've seen this movie before. Although all you people watch fucking Fast 10, so what do I know? The Panthers, yeah, you've got Bryce Young, but like we've seen the Panthers, they're similar to the team I root for in the Broncos in terms of we've had this revolving door the last several years. They tried Teddy Bridgewater, they tried Sam Darnold, they've tried, it's like it kind of feels like, and Bryce Young is the smallest of all the first round quarterbacks. I understand he still went first overall, but he's still the smallest. I would argue, and it's maybe the controversial part of the show, is like he's got the least upside out of all the quarterbacks taken. He doesn't flash off the TV where like that same excitement factor that someone like Anthony Richardson provides. He's not going to give it to you. He might be more stable and he might be more poised and ready to play week one, but he's not going to give you those same flashes, those same kind of, these are all alpha males playing in the NFL. These guys know who can play. These guys know who are the big time athletes who can stand out on a field with other big time athletes. And Bryce Young doesn't exactly. It's the Tua factor. It's like they're just not big enough to really give you that flash. Not saying you won't succeed, not saying you can't be a good NFL quarterback or even potentially a great NFL quarterback, but it's not there off the rip. The Buccaneers are essentially, when we talked about the Rams yesterday, you put all your chips in the middle of the table. You got Tom Brady. You re-signed your Super Bowl team. You got a Super Bowl out of it. Now it's time to pay the bill. and there's a lot of bills due, and your credit cards are maxed out, and a lot going on here. Like you got to pay these bills. Credit card's not there no more. It's going to go downhill real fast. This is why you signed a Baker Mayfield. This is why him and Kyle like I know Baker won the starting quarterback job, but when your competition is Kyle Trask and they've both looked terrible in preseason and they both look terrible in practice, not this you got your Super Bowl, you got your couple years of Tom Brady. Now, this is the turnaround that almost all franchises have to deal with when they lose their all-time great quarterback, even though Brady was obviously only there for a couple years, not a career worth. So, similar situation to the Rams. It's not going to be pretty. And the Falcons, who are, I think, just the surprise Caleb Williams team. Like, I think that's something that we're going to break that down after the break. In terms of, I think they're surprisingly going to be a team that is in the Caleb Williams sweepstakes, but Desmond Ridder, same thing with Bryce Young, doesn't exactly jump off the page, and he's not the first overall pick. He's not the decorated collegiate athlete. He just feels like a placeholder, even though he's a younger quarterback who was just drafted last year. There is the NFC South feels like today. It feels like Wednesday. It feels like the day nobody wants to be a part of, because it's not the beginning of the week where we can all bitch about it being Monday together, and it's not Friday where we're all looking forward to the weekends. It just feels like Wednesday. It feels like hump day. The entire NFC South feels like fucking Wednesday. Now that the depressing part of the show is over, a lot more to talk about. We're going to break down each individual team, their biggest storyline heading into the season. This is HardFoul Radio. We'll be back momentarily.